Yes, absolutely. Yeah, thanks very much. I guess just before I go, I mean, some cautionary statements. I'll be making forward-looking statements, and this can be found on our website. I think where I'll start is just very high level. The team at District Metals, we're very technically focused, but very importantly, we have a lot of experience in raising capital, which is absolutely crucial if you want to be drilling your priority drill targets. So we're focused in the Bergslagen district of Sweden, south central Sweden. It's very well known for high-grade polymetallic deposits. Our experience working in Sweden has been excellent. It's everything that our due diligence told us in terms of it's geopolitically stable, and it seems to be very pro-mining from what we can see. So we're focused. Our flagship property is Tom Thibault. It's an advanced stage exploration property, contains numerous historic mines and showings, but very importantly, it sits right in between the historic Falun mine, 25 kilometers to the northwest, and Boliden's active Garpenberg mine, 25 kilometers to the southeast. So in 2021, it was a very busy year for us. We completed 2 drill programs. Our phase 1 happened in the spring. And we hit numerous wide intervals of high-grade polymetallic mineralization that I'll get into further in the presentation. That really kind of gets us going on the track towards a mineral resource estimate. And then we completed our phase 2 drill program in December of last year, and we've reported some visuals of massive sulfides. Those drill assays should be coming out very shortly, and we expect them to be very strong. Also, late last year, we closed on the acquisition of 2 advanced stage exploration properties, being Svargio and Gruvberget. And, they're within 40 kilometers of our Tom Thibault project, but same idea. They've got some historic drilling, some past mining, but have not seen modern system exploration. And so just from a share structure standpoint, we're at about 87 million shares, undiluted, market cap 19 million, and just under $3 million in cash. So just a bit about myself. I mean, I'm a geologist. I've been an executive for about a decade now. I've spent a lot of my career in the Athabasca Basin looking for and discovering high-grade uranium deposits. I won a number of awards along the way. I was Alpha Minerals, which is now Fission Uranium. Also, I was with NextGen Energy. In 2018, I got a hold of District Metals as a shell company, looked all over the world for a project that really got me excited, and that's how we ended up in the Bergslagen with our Tom Thibault project to start off with. So, the management board and advisory team, we've all been very successful, across the board, and we know how to bring shareholder value. I won't get too much into detail about everyone individually, but I will mention our secret weapons. Hein Rat, our country manager, he worked, for over a decade with Boliden, very much focused on polymetallic deposits within the Bergslagen. And Rodney Allen is definitely a legend in Sweden in terms of his ability to understand these types of polymetallic deposits and the number of discoveries that he's made. He's credited with the team that took Boliden's Garpenberg mine from near closure to being a tier 1 asset for them today. So share structure has been a very important component of everything we do right from the get-go. We've got a number of very strong funds in District Metals on the share registry. It includes Commodity Capital, Commodity Discovery Fund, Extract Capital out of New York, APAC Capital out of Hong Kong, Cambrian Capital out of San Francisco. Sprott USA, the list goes on, but it's been a really big focus of bringing the right people in that understand what we're doing and what the main objective is. And I mean, myself, I have about 2.5 million shares that I've purchased from 12.5 up to 40 cents, being either in market or through financings. So just to get you oriented as to where we're located in Sweden, so south central right here, you see Tom Thibault right in between Falun and Garpenberg. It's really impressive. The mining history in Sweden, it dates back to 400 BC, and that was at the Garpenberg mine. There's a number of majors and mid tiers operating in Sweden. Obviously, Boliden and Lundin is down at Zinkgruvan. LCAB's up in the north with Barsele as well on the gold line, and Mandalay Resources. And one thing that really stands out to me for Sweden is that it really is a powerhouse for metals for Europe. I mean, it supplies 93% of Europe's iron ore, 11% copper, and 24 to 39% of the lead, zinc, silver, which is majority of that's coming out of Garpenberg and Zinkgruvan. The tax rate and the government agencies are very favorable in Sweden, and our community relations that we've had through permitting at Tom Kibo have been very, very positive experiences. So there are 16 active mines, 12 of them being metal within Sweden, and there's a really big push right now to source metals locally. And this is, this works out really well in the Nordic region because there are about 6 smelters across Norway, Sweden, and Finland. So you don't have to ship your concentrate all the way to Asia and then have it come back as a finished product. And, up in Luleå, or just south of Luleå, they've got the Northvolt battery factory where they want to source, the metals locally. Also in the works up in the north is the H2 green steel manufacturer, which makes a lot of sense considering how much iron comes out of there. Now, just zooming in on the Bergslagen itself. So you fly to Stockholm. It's a nice 2-hour drive up to our Tom Kibo property. You can see our other properties: Gruvberget, Svarjo, and Trollberget. And there's a plethora of historic mines and some very substantial active mines in the Bergslagen right now. And just to kind of put things into perspective, if you've got a polymetallic deposit that's 5 million tons, you're doing really well. But these deposits in the Bergslagen, these are quite large. I mean, Falun produced 28 million tons, 3% copper, 3 grams per ton gold, and then the other metals. Garpenberg, I mean, the global production resource reserve is over 200 million tons, and Zinkgruvan, again, like almost pretty much over 100 million tons. These are very, very large systems, and this is where you come to find them. Something that's very important as well about these type of polymetallic deposits is that the precious metal content is quite substantial. So, I mean, at Garpenberg, for instance, zinc and silver are basically tied for the top, revenue coming out of that ore. You're almost at 50% when you add in the gold as well. So, and the numbers for 2012 at Garpenberg, they mined out 3 million tons, and it can get a bit confusing when we're talking about 4 different grades. So what I've done is I've converted it to an in situ value per ton, and it really simplifies it in terms of what we're dealing with here. So, I mean, given the OPEX in 2020 was $43 a ton, they're clearing almost $120 per ton with 3 million tons mined. This is a cash cow for Boliden, and they're using a very low cutoff of $32 a ton. And this is where they're mining down 1,400 meters or 1.4 kilometers below the surface. So now taking an even closer look into the Tom Kibo project in the red outline there, it's about 5,100 hectares, covers a 17-kilometer strike length. You can see the Tom Kibo mine. That's where we've been doing focusing a lot of our phase 1 and phase 2 drilling. We've got the same geology, structure, mineralization styles, very importantly, as you see at Falun and Garpenberg. But the main difference with Tom Kibo is it just had, until we entered it, it had not seen modern systematic exploration, it's a key theme in the Bergslagen in general. So looking at like a long section, and it really gives you a good feel for the size and scale of these type of polymetallic deposits. You see Garpenberg is just it takes up a lot of space, and it starts at surface, goes down to 1,600 meters. The Tom Tebow mine, mining was done down to 90 meters. There's an exploration drift at the 200-meter level where historic drilling showed mineralizations open at depth and along strike. Also, the 12 kilometers to the northeast is our historic Lovas mine. Goes down to 190 meters with mineralization that's open. And what we're looking for and what we're hoping is that these historic mines are just scratching the surface of something that's much larger at depth, like at Garpenberg. But a standalone operation in the Bergslagen is thought to be around 10 million tons. So, I mean, that's not a very high bar to attain, given how large these can actually get. So I'll just kind of run through some of our phase one drill results, and what I've done is, it's converted into an in situ value just to simplify it. There's also, the grades broken out individually here, but I mean, hole 2 in our Oscarsgruven zone, this is in and around the historic Tom Tebow mine complex. 12.5 meters of rock that's very similar in situ values what was mined out at Garpenberg in 2020. Very, very good silver credit as well, 82 grams per ton. Hole 2 had, 148.6 grams per ton silver. But the main takeaway from Oscarsgruven here was that the style of mineralization, as Rodney Allen observed, is very similar to what you see at Garpenberg, in that you've got inliers of limestone with felsic volcanic rock, and that the mineralization is associated at those contacts with skarned rock. Now moving over to the Steffenberg zone, we've got numerous good intercepts of polymetallic mineralization. Hole 1 really knocked it out of the park with 8.2 meters of almost $400 per ton rock. It's very, very zinc rich. I believe that came to about 22% zinc equivalent at a very shallow depth. It really does show that this area has good expansion potential going forward, and that's where a lot of our phase 2 drilling and our next phase of drilling will concentrate, because we're planning on starting up drilling here in March, April. So just looking at a cross section of Steffenbergs, and just to get you oriented, so hole 1 here is where we hit the 8.2 meters of almost $400 per ton rock. In the phase 2 drilling, we followed up down dip and hit some very, very good grades. Hole 25 was a very solid step out, almost 120 meters down dip from hole 1. Hit 14 meters of about 14% zinc equivalent. Then hole 28 was an infill right in between, and that was a really big intercept. It had almost 17 meters of massive sulfides. We expect drill assays for hole 28 to be out in the next couple of weeks, so that'll be a very exciting news event for us. Then with hole 27, we clipped another lens. And then further down, we hit the northwest edge of this massive sulfide lens. So this is going to be a key area for us to follow up when we start drilling again in March and April. Then looking down at the southwest portion of the historic Tom Tebow mine, we've got the copper gold feeder zone. Some very good intercepts, 8.6 meters of $162 per ton rock. The really important part about this is the Gårdsgruven zone, is that it's showing that there's a strong feeder zone, which is a very important component of any large polymetallic system in the Bergslagen. Zinkgruven has it, and so does Garpenberg as well. And we have it here at Tom Tebow. So looking more broadly, like on a regional perspective here, so this is the southwest portion of our Tom Tebow project. We flew an airborne magnetic survey and identified within this black rectangle what we call the Tom Tebow mine trend. You can see magnetic highs associated with the Tom Tebow mine, but there's also several other isolated magnetic high anomalies that have not been drill tested that we will be doing so. But they also have some of these have coincident gravity high anomalies and conductive anomalies, which are all very important. And these are signatures that you see associated with the mineralization at Garpenberg and also at the Falun mine. So I'll just cover off last couple slides here are covering off some of our new acquisitions. So our Groove Barriet property, located about 40 kilometers to the northwest of Tom Tebow. It's quite large, 5,300 hectares. There's been some minimal bulk mining that was done. This is mostly woodlands, so there's no real agricultural here. Because it's a bit hillier, but there's some very significant polymetallic intercepts from the south zone and the north zone. The north zone I've been very impressed with, as it's got continuous mineralization historically drilled across 550 meters and down to 160 meters, and it's open in all directions. So this is actually, we're going to come to Groove Barriet and we're going to focus on the north zone, stepping out at depth and along strike to a certain degree, and we'll probably start that in late April or early May. And then Svarjo property, you can see there's Tom Tebow right to the south, so they're 25 kilometers apart. Svarjo is smaller, about 1,000 hectares, but it's had some substantial historical production. Over 1 million tons produced at grades that are higher than what you would see at Garpenberry in 2020. And there's some literature that actually shows to the southwest of the Svarjo mine, there were some mineralized lenses that were discovered and have not been followed up on. They remain open. So, we're going to do the same game plan as what we've done with Tom Tebow. We've already flown the airborne magnetic survey. We're going to hit the ground with detailed mapping and sampling. And, as it stands now, this is drill ready as well, just like Groove Barriet on some parts of the property. So last slide here, just covering off our plans for the first half of this year. It's going to be a busy one. We're going to have 3 drill programs in the first half of this year, so it's pretty exciting. But just starting off in January, we completed a downhole electromagnetic survey that's really going to give us important information, especially around holes 1, 25, 28, where we've hit massive sulfides at the Steffenberg zone. This is going to instruct us on how to drill at depth beneath this and grow that massive sulfide lens. And then at Groove Barriet, and Svarjo, in November we flew an airborne survey, EM and mag. So that's the interpretation of that is underway currently. We should have news out on that in February or even in early March, but it's a very important step in advancing the project for the regional targets. And then, as I mentioned, Tom Tebow, we're looking to do a drill program starting in late March, early April, and then the drill rig will move to Groove Barriet. And something I didn't talk about in this presentation is our Bakar property. It's actually in Canada on Vancouver Island. And we're in a joint venture with another company. We're operating it, but a brand new target has been revealed there. It's called the Elephant Crossing target. We actually put news out on it a couple of weeks ago. So it's a good option for us to make a very significant discovery there, and we'll look to start that program hopefully in April of this year. But that's all I have for you now, and I guess we can move to the Q&A.
And that was more than just, I think. A very nice presentation. Thank you for that. I would like to expose my ignorance in one bit. Your mission statement, as I understand them, would be to seek out, to explore, and to develop different projects. So, given the information we got in this presentation, where would you be in that timeline or execution line, as it were, on the different projects?
Yeah, good question. So we very purposely picked up Tom Tebow, Groove Barriet, Svarjo as being advanced stage exploration properties. They've got some historic drilling that shows some good intercepts of polymetallic mineralization. There's been, past historic mining. So, that's a really good starting point for us in getting to a mineral resource and developing it out, and then, moving towards like a PEA, PFS. So, we're in that stage of exploring and moving into the development. But also concurrently, we're looking at making brand new discoveries away from the known mineralization that we're trying to expand. So it's good in that we know we're going to get into mineralization, but really to move the needle, it helps to make a brand new discovery as well.
So. And how would you then develop? Is it to mine the exploration, or is it just to have let's say proven assets and then invite partners or sell it?
Exactly. So I'm a geologist by training. I have no intention or desire to permit a mine and become a mine operator. That's not my skill set. I know it very clearly. So our plan is to advance these projects to a point where they're, something that a company like Boliden or Lundin would be interested in acquiring.
And can I just have one question connected to that? And that means that given the cash position you would have, you're pretty comfortable in that situation. Is that correct? Yeah.
It's funny. In Canada, when I mentioned that we're drilling in Sweden, some of the first feedback I get is, "Oh, you're in Sweden, that must be expensive," but it's not, because the infrastructure is so good, especially where we're at in South Central Sweden, that our drilling costs are $300 per meter or less, all in. And in Canada, for instance, if you're up in the north, you're looking at more $400 to $600. Per meter, all in. So there are parts of Canada obviously where it can be more like $200, like if you're in Red Lake or the Abitibi. But $300 Canadian per meter for everything is very, very competitive.
And one thing that strikes me here is, given the history, obviously you had a nice slide, particularly if you're Swedish, where you point out the history and the knowledge and the positive regulatory environment. There's still vast tracts that seems to be unexplored in the way that you have done in Bergslagen area, and it's actually surrounded by competitors, competent miners, I would say. Why do you think that is?
From the due diligence period where we came to find Tom Thibault, that was actually one of the big draws and opportunities that we saw in the Bergslagen. Was you've got thousands of historic mines and showings that have not seen systematic modern systematic exploration. And part of that is because foreign companies were not allowed to operate in Scandinavia or Sweden up until the 1990s. And the majors in the Bergslagen, for instance, they've got their hands full with Boliden's Garpenberg mine. They're doing a lot of exploration near mine, but they just don't. They're not super active on going after these grassroots or even brownfield sites that are away from their active mines. So, but in that sense, if there is a new discovery in the region and it becomes quite significant, then they can't ignore it either.
And getting to the near end of the question here, but I'd just like to ask you one slightly philosophical question perhaps, but if you look at Sweden versus Canada, then obviously you point out that the regulatory permit grants and stuff like that in Sweden seems to be at an advantage towards Canada, whereas I would say that in Canada has a better system for data collecting, as it were, for feasibility studies and so on, and also perhaps a bigger money pool because there is more money that have been made from exploration in that way. So would you put a premium to an asset in Sweden or in Canada as you are in the both areas?
A premium on the project?
Yeah, well, basically you have a portfolio of very interesting assets. So where would you have your premium, in Sweden, as it were, or in Canada, when you're going to sell it?
Yeah, absolutely in Sweden. I mean, and one of another key consideration before we entered Sweden was, who are the potential suitors, who are the majors operating in the region? Are they financially capable of executing on a monetizing event and acquiring projects? And the answer was definitely yes. Boliden's in very good shape, and same with Lundin. And that was a key consideration for myself, because having worked in the Athabasca Basin, discovering some very excellent uranium deposits that have still not been bought out. That's a function of the majors in that region not being financially well off. So it's very important to have an exit strategy, and if it's a monetizing event, then the majors better be in a good shape to do so.
And I will just finalize here. We're sticking to the Bergslagen area, which we have been focusing here. What would be the value of the polymetallic ore that is mined there?
Yeah, so in 2020, out of Garpenberg, yeah, $165 per ton is the value of the ore, and I mean that's using very conservative metal prices that I had down in the lower notes. So I think as a lot of people feel that the price of silver is going to come up, that number is going to rise quite substantially as well.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Garrett. It's very interesting, and also a reminder to the viewers here that although we are a powerhouse, we're mainly into iron ore, and as you said, opened up to professional and extra knowledge in prospecting precious metals and polymetals. So I think there's a lot to come from operators like yourself. So Garrett, thank you very much. Should be very interesting to follow. And if there is any further questions, we will revert them with a warm hand towards yourself. Is that okay?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, thank you, and have a good day. You started it quite early, I take it.
Yes, yeah, I'm used to it now.
Well, good. Well, thank you, and good luck.
Great, thanks very much.